The first cry of her newborn son was the sweetest sound Maman-Kechi had ever heard. The second was the sound of a man's voice in her doorway, a voice she hadn't heard in 9 months, saying, "Thank you for carrying my heir. I have come to collect him." But 9 months before that terrible day, Maman-Kechi was just a lonely, childless widow. At 50 years old, her womb was considered a dry, dusty pot, forgotten in the corner of a kitchen. Her husband had died 20 years ago, leaving her with a quiet hut and the heavy cloak of barrenness. In the village of Umuahia, a woman's worth was measured by the number of children who called her mother. By that measure, Maman-Kechi was worth nothing. The other women in the market would stop talking when she came near. Their whispers followed her like flies. "Look at her," they would say, not quietly enough. "Her hands are for pounding yam, but not for rocking a baby." Children would sometimes point at her, their mothers pulling them away as if her bad luck was a disease they could catch. Every night, Maman-Kechi prayed to the ancestors. She knelt on the hard mud floor of her hut, her tears watering the dry earth. "Please," she would beg, her voice a hoarse whisper, "just one child, a boy or a girl. Let me not go to my grave without someone to carry on my name. Let my husband's spirit rest, knowing his line is not finished." But her prayers were met with silence. The moon would rise and fall, the seasons would change, and her belly remained stubbornly flat. One evening, during the peak of the dry season, a stranger walked into Umuahia. He was not like the men from the village. He was very tall, with shoulders as wide as a doorway. His skin was the color of rich, dark soil after the rain, and his eyes held a strange calmness, as if he had seen the beginning of the world and was not impressed. He walked with a slow, deliberate purpose, and though he carried nothing but a walking stick, he looked powerful. He asked for the oldest widow in the village, and the people, curious and a little fearful, pointed him to Maman-Kechi's hut. She was outside, mending an old fishing net, when his shadow fell over her. She looked up, startled. "Good evening, Mama," he said. His voice was deep, like the rumbling of distant thunder. "Good evening," she replied, her eyes wide. Strangers were rare in Umuahia. "My name is Adewale. I am a traveler. I am looking for a place to rest for the night." Maman-Kechi hesitated. It was not proper for a widow to have a man in her hut, but there was something in his eyes that was not threatening. It was ancient and tired. Against her better judgment, she nodded. "You can stay. I have no bed, only a mat. I can offer you some yam and stew." He followed her inside. The hut was small and clean. As she cooked, he sat on the mat, watching her. He did not speak much, but his silence was heavy. It felt like he was not just looking at her, but looking into her, seeing all the empty spaces and the years of sorrow. After they ate, he finally spoke again. "You are lonely, Mama." It was not a question, it was a statement. Maman-Kechi's hand stilled. She simply nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "You wish for a child," he continued, his voice soft. Fresh tears welled in her eyes. "It is my greatest shame. I am a failed woman." Adewale leaned forward slightly. The single lantern in the hut cast long dancing shadows on his face. "The body is a vessel. A field can be dry, but with the right seed and a strong enough farmer, it can still produce a harvest." She looked at him, confused. "I am too old. My season for planting is long past." "Age is for mortals," he said, a strange smile playing on his lips. "I can give you what you want most. A son. A strong, healthy boy who will make the village respect you." Maman-Kechi stared at him, her heart starting to beat like a drum. Was this man mad, or was he a spirit? How? What magic is this? It is no magic. It is a gift, a transaction. I have a legendary seed, and you have a womb that is ready for it. I will plant my seed in you tonight, and in 9 months you will have your son." She was shocked and scared. What he was suggesting was unthinkable. To lie with a stranger, a man she had just met? The village would kill her if they found out. But then she thought of the whispers. She thought of the pointing children. She thought of dying alone with no one to mourn her properly. The desperation she had felt for 20 years was a powerful poison, and it made her bold. What do you want in return?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I have no money. I have nothing to give you." Adiwale's calm eyes met hers. "I have nothing from you now. You will give my son life. That is your part of the bargain. Just accept my gift." That night was strange. It was not an act of passion or love. It was quiet, solemn, and purposeful, like a farmer planting a sacred yam tuber. Adewale was strong, but gentle. When it was over, he lay on the mat and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, before the sun had even kissed the horizon, he was gone. He left no trace except for the memory of his impossible promise. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. Maman Kechi tried to forget the strange night. She told herself it was a bizarre dream, a trick of her lonely mind. Then one morning, she felt a wave of sickness. Her body began to feel different. Her menstrual cycle, which had stopped years ago, did not return. With a heart full of fear and a tiny spark of hope, she went to see the old village herbalist, a woman who could read the secrets of a body. The old woman examined her wrinkled face a mask of concentration. After a long silence, she looked up at Maman Kechi, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Maman Kechi, the ancestors have done the impossible. You are with child." News of Maman Kechi's pregnancy spread through Unuahia like a bushfire in the Harmattan season. At first, no one believed it. It was a joke, a mad fantasy. A 50-year-old widow, a woman whose womb was sealed shut by time, could not possibly carry a child. The women who had whispered about her barrenness now whispered about her sanity. "The poor woman's grief has finally cooked her brain," said one woman at the market, not bothering to lower her voice. "She is stuffing her wrapper with rags to fool us all." But as the weeks passed, the truth became impossible to deny. Maman Kechi's belly, once flat and soft with age, began to swell. It was not the slow, gentle curve of a normal pregnancy. This was something else. Her stomach grew with an alarming speed, stretching her skin until it shone like polished wood. By the 3rd month, she looked as if she was ready to give birth. By the 5th, she was larger than any woman in the village had ever been, even those who had carried twins. The villagers' mockery turned into a fearful awe. They stopped whispering and started staring. Children who used to point at her now ran and hid when she walked past, her large round belly leading the way like the prow of a great canoe. They looked at her as if she was no longer human, but a vessel for something otherworldly. The elders of the village gathered under the big iroko tree, their faces creased with worry. "This is not a natural thing," said one old man, his voice raspy with age. "The gods do not plant a seed in a dry field. This is the work of a spirit or something darker." Maman Kechi felt their fear, and it fed her own. But the life growing inside her was strong and real. She felt it kick and turn, powerful movements that seemed to shake her entire frame. She had spent 2 decades praying for this, and now that her prayer was answered, it terrified her. She thought often of the stranger, Adewale. Who was he? What kind of seed had he planted in her? His promise of a son echoed in her mind, but now it sounded less like a gift and more like a warning.
Her body changed in other strange ways. Her appetite became monstrous. She would eat an entire pot of yam porridge and still feel hungry. Her senses sharpened. She could smell the rain coming a day before the clouds gathered, and she could hear the conversations of people on the other side of the village. She felt stronger than she had in 30 years. The aches in her back and knees disappeared. It was as if the child was not just growing inside her, but remaking her from the inside out. The village herbalist, who had first confirmed her pregnancy, refused to see her again. "The thing in your belly is not a human child," she had told Manhood, her eyes wide with terror as she backed away. "Stay away from me, woman. I will not touch this." Alone and ostracized, Manhood's joy was mixed with a creeping dread. She would sit outside her hut in the evenings, her hands resting on her enormous, ever-moving belly. She would talk to the child, her voice a soft murmur against the sounds of the night. "Who are you, my son? Where do you come from?" The only answer was a powerful kick, a reminder of the unnatural strength that was coiled within her. The pregnancy lasted for 9 months, just as Adewale had said it would. But those 9 months felt like 9 years to the village and a lifetime to Manhood. On the day her water broke, no one would come to help her. The midwives she called for shut their doors in her face. "We do not deliver spirits," one of them shouted through the wooden door. "Call on the man who gave you that belly to help you." Pain ripped through her body, a pain so intense it felt like she was being split in two. She crawled back to her small hut, the dust of the path sticking to her sweat-drenched skin. She was completely alone. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and blood red. She lay on her mat, panting, her body convulsing with the force that was not her own. The child was coming, and it was fighting its way into the world with a terrifying strength. Through the haze of pain, Manhood felt the child moving down. It was a struggle so violent she thought she would die. She screamed, not for help, because she knew none would come, but from the sheer agony of it. She pushed with all the remade strength the pregnancy had given her, her muscles straining, her vision blurring. She felt a final great tearing, a release of pressure so immense that she blacked out for a moment. When she came to, the first thing she heard was a cry, but it was not the weak, wavering cry of a normal newborn baby. It was a loud, deep, and shockingly robust roar that filled the small hut and seemed to shake the very earth beneath it. It was the cry of a king, a warrior, a conqueror. Lying on the mat between her legs was a baby boy. He was perfect. He was huge, the size of a 3-month-old, with full head of thick black hair and eyes that were already open, looking around the hut with a strange, unnerving intelligence. Tears of joy and relief streamed down Manhood's face. She had done it. She had her son. She forgot the pain, the fear, the whispers, the strange man. All that mattered was the beautiful, healthy boy in her arms. She held him close, her heart overflowing with the love so fierce it stole her breath. He was her miracle. Her shame was washed away. It was in that moment of pure joy, as she held her son to her chest, that she heard the footsteps outside her door. They were slow, heavy, and deliberate. The sound of a walking stick striking the hard earth. A deep shadow fell across the doorway, blocking the moonlight. Manhood's blood ran cold. She looked up from her child's face to see the tall, broad-shouldered figure of Adewale standing there. His face was calm, unreadable, but his eyes were fixed on the baby in her arms. "Thank you for carrying my heir," he said, his voice the same deep rumble she remembered. It was not a voice of gratitude, but of ownership. I have come to collect him. The joy in Mama Nkechi's heart shattered like a clay pot dropped on a stone floor. His words hung in the air, cold and sharp. For a moment, she could not understand. Collect him? Like a debt? Like a parcel? Her mind refused to accept it. This was her son, the proof of her womanhood, the warm, breathing answer to 20 years of desperate prayers. No, she whispered, the word barely audible. She pulled the baby tighter against her chest, her arms forming a protective shield. No, he is mine. Adewale took a slow step into the hut. He did not look angry. He looked patient, like a river that knows it will eventually wear down any mountain. He is not yours, Mama. He is mine. You were the vessel, a beautiful, strong vessel, and I am grateful, but the harvest belongs to the farmer, not to the field. I am not a field, she screamed, her voice cracking with a sudden fierce energy. I am his mother. I carried him. I felt him kick. My body broke to give him life. She looked down at the child, who was quiet now, his unnervingly intelligent eyes watching the tall man in the doorway. He was not crying. He was calm. You gave him passage into this world, but he is not of this world. He is of my blood, and my blood is not human. A cold dread, colder than any Harmattan night, washed over Mama Nkechi. She remembered the unnatural speed of her pregnancy, the monstrous appetite, the strange strength that had filled her bones. She remembered the fear in the herbalist's eyes. What are you? She asked, her voice trembling. I have been called many names. I am the spirit of the ancient forest, the river that flows when the land is thirsty. I am the life that pushes the yam through the hard soil. I am old, Mama, older than this village, older than the memory of men. He took another step closer. My kind grows few. I needed an heir. I searched for a womb that was strong, empty, and filled with a powerful desire. I found you. His words made no sense, yet deep in her soul they felt true. It was the only explanation for the miracle that now lay in her arms. But the truth did not make it right. He is a baby, she pleaded, tears now streaming down her face, mixing with the sweat and dust of childbirth. He needs his mother. He needs to drink my milk. He will not need your milk, Adewale said. Where we are going, he will drink from the streams of life itself. He cannot stay here. His power is too great for this world. He would burn it down without meaning to. As he spoke, Mama Nkechi felt a sudden, sharp pain in her back, like a hot knife stabbing her spine. She gasped. A wave of weakness washed over her, so profound that her arms holding the baby trembled. The strength that had flooded her body for 9 months was vanishing, draining away like water from a broken pot. She looked down at her hands. They looked different. The skin seemed looser, the knuckles more pronounced. Were there new wrinkles around her fingers? She blinked, trying to clear her vision. Adewale saw the confusion and terror on her face. His expression softened with something that might have been pity. This is the price, Mama Nkechi, he said, his voice filled with a heavy finality. You did not think such a miracle came for free, did you?
"The price?" she choked out. "You said you wanted nothing." "I wanted nothing from you," he clarified, "but the child takes what it needs. A life force as strong as his could not be made from nothing. The rapid growth, the incredible power you felt, it was not a gift to you. It was a loan. You were borrowing from your own future. For 9 months, my son gave you the strength of your next 20 years to help you carry him. Now that he is born, the debt must be paid." The horror of his words sank in. She could feel it happening. The aches she had not felt in months returned with a vengeance. Her joints screamed in protest. She felt a deep, hollowing exhaustion that settled into her very bones. She tried to push herself up, to stand and fight, but her legs would not obey. They were weak, withered things. She frantically felt her hair. Where it had been thick and dark, it now felt thin and brittle. Strands came away in her fingers, dull and gray. She could feel the skin on her face tightening, pulling back against the bone in the way of the very old. The life force that had been loaned to her was being reclaimed, with interest. In the space of minutes, she was aging years. This was the terrible price. It was not just losing her son. It was losing the very life she had wanted him to fill. "Please," she begged, her voice now a raspy old woman's croak. "Please, don't take him. Let me have him, even for a day, an hour. Let me be his mother for just a little while." Adewale walked the rest of the way to her mat and knelt down. He looked at her, and in his ancient eyes she saw a deep, unending sadness. To give you an hour with him would be to give you a death sentence. He would drain the rest of your life away before the sun rises. My gift to you was not a son to keep. It was the chance to be a mother, to feel life inside you, to bring a king into the world. You have done what no other woman could. Your name will be remembered in my world forever. He reached out his large, powerful hands. He did not snatch the baby. He held them out, waiting. Mama Enikechi looked from Adewale's ancient face to her son's newborn one. The baby was not scared. He was looking at Adewale, his father, and there was a clear look of recognition, of belonging. In that moment she understood. The child was not hers. He had never been hers. He was just a visitor, passing through. With a final, soul-tearing sob, her strength gave out completely. Her arms fell open. Adewale gently lifted the baby. He cradled him with an expert tenderness that spoke of ages of practice. The baby cooed, reaching a tiny, chubby hand up to touch his father's face. Adewale stood, the powerful child resting easily in his arms. He looked down one last time at the woman on the floor, her body now shrunken and frail, the skin wrinkled like a dried mango. He said, "Rest now, Mama Enikechi. You have done your part." Then he turned and walked out of the hut, taking the miracle, the joy, and the future with him. He disappeared into the night, leaving behind only a sudden, crushing silence and the faint, sweet smell of a newborn baby that would haunt Mama Enikechi for the few days she had left.